future and ready to get Missouri businesses, communities, and citizens back on their feet. Already, we are beginning to see signs of economic recovery. Yesterday, I had the chance to attend a groundbreaking ceremony for a new Rankin Technical College campus in Troy, Missouri. This will be the first workforce development training facility in Lincoln County and is expected to create nearly 100 jobs and $2.8 million in private investment. The campus is a partnership between Rankin and the Lincoln County School District to provide secondary and post-secondary education and training in the region. Training will initially focus on emerging technologies in agriculture, aquaponics, renewable energy, advanced manufacturing, and building and construction trades. Now, more than ever, Missouri needs skilled, resilient workers to help move our economy forward. This kind of training and education is critical to prepare our future generations for high-skill, high-demand jobs. We have talked since day one as governor that workforce development and infrastructure are the keys to moving Missouri forward. And I will say it again. The keys to moving Missouri forward after this pandemic will be infrastructure and workforce development, and we have to get focused back on the economy, get people the training they need to meet the workforce demands. Lincoln County received $5.1 million grant from the United States Economic Development Administration to build this campus, which will be matched by $360,000 in local investments. An additional $1 million in funding was previously allocated by the state to aid in workforce development in Lincoln County. This is a great example of the differences we can make when we all work together, and I want to thank everyone for their involvement in this project, for their commitment to Missouri students and their futures. Also, yesterday, I had the chance to tour the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, inmate training and manufacturing facilities. One of the other things we've talked about since day one is making people that are incarcerated get the ability to have some sort of training so they can come back out and be involved in the workforce in the state of Missouri. The sheriff and his department is a shining example of what we can do with people that are incarcerated to give them training and the skills they need to re-enter the workforce. See some of the projects they did up there yesterday was building buildings for the county and actually starting the new process of building tiny homes, or veterans homes as most of us know it, for our veterans and homeless people across the state of Missouri. So great to see that kind of activity in a county sheriff's office. So again, moving forward. So Lincoln County seems to be having it going on up there in that county in Troy, Missouri. Today we received more good news on the economic recovery front. According to Missouri's monthly job report, our labor market began a rebound in May following the major job losses in April of 2020 due to COVID-19 closures. In May, roughly 34,000 people returned to work, and that's a good sign and the beginning of a long future of people going back into work and getting the economy going again. While we still have a lot of work to do, this is a good sign and shows that we are already making progress. Last week, we announced that we are moving forward with plans for the 2020 Missouri State Fair. For more than a century, the State Fair has been built on strong traditions, showcasing the best of Missouri agriculture. It has only been canceled once in the past 100 years, and I don't want to be the governor that makes it the second time. The fair will look different this year, but we're going to do everything we can to safely make it happen and keep the tradition going and alive. Today, Director Chin is here to give an update on the State Fair and Missouri's food supply chain. So, Director?
Thank you, Governor Parson. As Governor Parson said, I am Chris Chin, Director of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. And in my role as Director of Agriculture, I also serve as one of the commissioners on the Missouri State Fair. This team of dedicated individuals works year-round with the staff at the Missouri State Fair to plan our annual event. As the governor just announced, we are proud to be hosting the 2020 Missouri State Fair August the 13th through the 23rd. We're also proud that Governor Parson, our biggest supporter, was able to make this announcement last week. This shows the important role that agriculture has in the state of Missouri. One of the other many hats that I wear during the fair is that of as the mom of an exhibitor. Young people in agriculture put in countless hours of work on their projects, whether it's livestock, vegetables, photos, or other items. Just like farming, it's amazing to see the educational value that the State Fair provides for our students. These young 4-H and FFA members are the future of agriculture. In talking with the governor, we wanted to ensure that these traditions continued this year. We see the continuation of the State Fair as part of Governor Parson's plan to reopen the state. It goes without saying that we're committed to stepping up our game on our cleaning efforts to make sure that we do everything we can to protect the public. We've purchased additional hand sanitizer stations, and we are going to step up our cleaning procedures and sanitation efforts. Everyone keeps asking, what will the fair look like this year? The only major feature that will not be coming back this year will be our concert lineup. Our livestock shows, our carnival, our camping, they're all on for the 2020 State Fair. We will continue to work with our sponsors, our vendors, our event managers, and our concessionaires to find a plan that works for each of their teams. We truly want every participant to feel safe and welcome at this fair. I want to thank our sponsors who are sticking with us as we navigate through the 2020 State Fair. None of this would be possible without our Missouri State Fair team, though. They are truly rock stars. Every year requires a lot of hard work and dedication, but many thanks goes out to this team who will be working double time this year to make sure the fair is ready for fairgoers. I'd also like to thank State Fair Director Mark Wolf and the entire team for all of their hard work and dedication. One of the highlights of the recent fair for many years has been the Drive to Feed Kids, which is coordinated by the Missouri Farmers Care. The Drive to Feed Kids event is a year-long campaign that strives to address food insecurity in the state of Missouri. One of the major events under this campaign is a one-day event that takes place at the Missouri State Fair where more than 100,000 meals are packed for families who are food insecure. We have great news on this event as well. The Planning Committee has committed to continuing the event in some form during the 2020 State Fair. The Drive to Feed Kids also stepped up during COVID-19 to make sure that the need was met for food insecurity. According to Feeding Missouri, 1.2 million Missourians faced food insecurity before COVID-19 hit. Protein is always one of the hardest products for our food banks to find. So in partnership with the Missouri Pork Association and Missouri farmers, we donated nearly 48,000 servings of ground pork to the food bank in central and northeast Missouri. And yesterday, they also donated 22,000 servings to the St. Louis Area Food Bank. This is great news, but there's a lot more donations planned for the rest of the summer. It's always encouraging to me to see that our farmers and ranchers, even when they're hit with hard times, are stepping up to help those in the communities who are in need. I'm also happy to report that our food system has started to recover. What you're seeing today in the grocery stores' shelves is one of the greatest comeback stories in agriculture. Our food system sustained an unprecedented and a rapid change in demand as we started cooking more from home. Overnight, businesses and grocery stores pivoted to a different business model than what they had had in previous weeks. And now our inventories are rebounding. In 2019, we saw historically low food expenses for Americans. In total, Americans spend on average 9.5% of their income on food, whether that's at home or eating out. Specifically, Americans spend less to feed their families at home than in any other country in the world. Even with our short-term price increases in the last few weeks, we're proud of the resiliency of our food supply, and we're excited to see our prices start to return to normal. We know that every segment of agriculture has felt the tremendous impact of COVID-19, and for some segments, they will for years to come. I'm thankful for the strength and the resiliency of my fellow farmers. There's been a lot of positive things happen in the last few weeks that we need to focus on. We've seen more consumers establish long-term relationships directly with farmers, specifically on the beef side. Several weeks ago, we saw a sense of normalcy return to agriculture as farmers were able to get back in their fields and start planting. And for many of us in the last week, there were farmers that were able to make it into the hay fields. Missouri agriculture has received tremendous support from our governor. We've worked with his office to prioritize all parts of the food supply, including our farmers and ranchers. We were able to bring regulatory relief for trucking waivers, essential business designation, and also in helping us meet the demand of milk and meat supply challenges. His support will have positive results for our food supply. I want to end today by thanking our farmers, our ranchers, and especially our essential workers all across Missouri. Thank you for heading into work every day to make sure that you were making sure that the food supply needs were met in the country. Your hard work and dedication truly strengthened each of our Missouri families, and your dedication will not be forgotten. We appreciate everything that you've done in the last few weeks and months to make sure that Missouri families were fed. Thank you.
Director, good job. Thank you for what you're doing right now. When Chris mentioned the state fair, it's coming. It's a little late making that announcement, to say the least. It was important to me to make sure that I had the information where I felt like I could do that safely, where I felt like we could move forward on it. And I want to thank all them, because they're under a little bit of a timeline to trying to get that all pulled off in the next 45 days or 2 months. But I'm confident they can do it. Again, the director's been down this road before. She can put a state fair together. Mark Wolf, the director over at the state fair. A lot of good people will be working on this. But again, farmers have stepped up to the plate the last 3 or 4 months to make sure that the food product was on the table for everybody, and they did their part. And the one time of the year they get to showcase who they are. I don't want to take that opportunity away from anybody, so everybody will have opportunity to go out and visit the state fair. So let me say that. The next person that's going to be coming up here, Director Stringer from Mental Health, is going to be up here to talk to you in just a few minutes. I just want to say this. Dr. Stringer and his team continue day in and day out through the virus, dealing with some of the people that they deal with that can't help themselves, that needed help every day. The majority of the people in mental health went to work every day during this time, dealing with some of the most difficult situations in the state. And I definitely want to thank him for his leadership. I want to thank the employees at the mental health for what they've done during this time, to stay focused on their jobs, to go to work every day to help people that couldn't help themselves. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Stringer to give you a little bit more details of what they've been doing and what they're going to continue to do. Director?
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to start by speaking on behalf of the Department of Mental Health when I say that our hearts go out to the families and friends who've lost loved ones to COVID-19. We have recently had losses within my own department that I'll tell you about a little later. We're still learning about COVID-19, of course, and have much more to learn, but we do know that it has not only stressed our systems and businesses, it has also stressed our citizens. Therefore, the Missouri Department of Mental Health was awarded nearly $2.3 million for a FEMA Crisis Counseling Program, or CCP. It's a grant that will help us better address the statewide emotional distress caused by the pandemic. The crisis counseling program is called Show Me Hope, and it provides information, education, and training on coping skills, problem solving, and connection to community resources. Every Missourian and every community can access the crisis counseling program at no charge. So that's the good news, and I'll tell you in a few minutes how to access the program. But I'd like to focus for a few minutes on the area of the state that's been hardest hit, and that, of course, is St. Louis. The St. Louis metropolitan area has been at the forefront of the COVID-19 outbreak and has experienced nearly 3/4 of Missouri's deaths from the virus. We know that the African American community has been disproportionately impacted. Domestic violence, mental illness, and substance use are serious concerns, and access to information for all Missourians must be culturally competent. Fortunately, there's a strong behavioral health clinic and Coalition in Greater St. Louis, which created a framework for addressing the stress and loss in the region. BJC Health System, Places for People, and Hopewell Center are all involved in the Coalition and the Crisis Counseling Program. To support efforts in St. Louis, swiftly reach the populations that are most vulnerable, and deliver timely counseling services and supports, Governor Parson has supplemented the FEMA grant with an additional $100,000 of CARES Act funding, specifically for helping and expanding the crisis counseling program through the following established and trusted St. Louis community organizations. The Behavioral Health Network, or BHN, will provide general project management and specially trained crisis counselors from key community programs. Bridges to Care and Recovery is a faith-based program comprised of 86 North City and North County churches, featuring 125 volunteer wellness champions who are trusted peers designated by pastors to support their members in accessing appropriate care and resources. Safe Connections provides information and resources for victims of domestic violence. Their crisis counselors will be on loan, so to speak, to other teams as well, and there will be a tie to their domestic violence helpline. Mental Health America, or MHA, provides information and resources, including their helpline, volunteer network, and ties to the business community. Casa de Salud also provides information and resources, plus translation support to the immigrant community. They've offered their healthcare navigators to be, again, on loan to other teams. Finally, Alive and Well provides information and resources along with their health ambassadors who work with groups to increase resilience and decrease the impact of trauma and toxic stress. This $100,000 investment by Governor Parson will enhance these services to Greater St. Louis at a time when they're most needed. So, anyone in any part of the state experiencing stress or anxiety from COVID-19 can call the Show Me Hope line at 800-985-5990 or text Talk With Us, one word, Talk With Us, to 66746. And last, and this part breaks my heart, you'll note that I'm wearing a purple tie today. In the last week, we've lost 2 of our own DMH team members to COVID-19. One worked at St. Louis Psychiatric Rehabilitation Center, and the other at our South County DDTC Rehabilitation Center for people with developmental disabilities. At some point, there'll be a memorial service for our psychiatric hospital worker, but for our DDTC HAB Center team member, whose favorite color was purple, there is an outdoor memorial service today at which her family and co-workers will release purple balloons and be wearing the color purple. So I, like many of the over 7,000 employees of the Department of Mental Health across the state, are wearing purple too. So thank you.
Mark, thank you very much, and our thoughts and prayers will be with the family of those for the loss of the department. I couldn't help but think when Mark was up here talking about the Department of Mental Health of such a busy agency in the state for what it has to do day in and day out. And I think with COVID-19, dealing with that, still having to do their job every day, nothing changed for them, only that just more work on that department. And as I get to be able to hear tonight, to get to talk about the economy and things getting a little better, actually that mental health director in that department has more challenges as they move forward from what really occurred with COVID-19, the effect it had on a lot more people, plus what they had before. So I appreciate them every day. I appreciate them employees that are out there, again, that's dealing with the things a lot of us don't want to deal with. But I appreciate them every day for going to work and what they do for the state. In closing, Dr. Williams is also here today. We'll bring them all back up here where you can ask questions here in a few minutes. So in closing, again, we are optimistic about the future and our road to recovery. We are already making progress, and I strongly believe that our economy will bounce back quicker and stronger than before. But I will continue to remind everyone that COVID-19 is still out there. We have to be able to move forward and get the economy back and running while we still being proactive and protecting public health. I know that by working together, I know with common sense, I know with people working hard, we can and we can do both in this state, and we will. Thank you, and God bless. Kelly, I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Director Chin.
Hi, Director. What are you preparing for as a department in the fall when it comes to the pandemic, and is that any different than things you've had to respond to so far?
So our fall plans will be just like what we've been doing this spring. If we see numbers start to rise up, we'll do the same thing that we did in March when we saw COVID-19 hit the state.
And in terms of like responding to a food supply disruption, for example, you would repeat the same things?
Sure. We're in contact with all of the food processors that we work with at the Department of Agriculture to make sure that they have an adequate supply on hand of PPE to protect their teammates. And if they don't, we will help them connect them to suppliers who have that PPE available to sell to them.
Thank you.
Many Midwestern states have canceled their state fairs. What makes you think that Missouri can do this safely?
Well, it's based off of the data that we have here in Missouri. We've been collecting our own test data. We've seen our numbers decrease. And one of the differences of Missouri State Fair is it is not settled in an urban area. Many other states host their state fair in a more urban setting. Ours is in Sedalia, Missouri. And so I think that is a very different situation than what other states are seeing.
And no concerts, but are you going to hold the tractor pull, car races, cow chip throwing contest, where big groups of people are going to be?
So at this time, we are planning all of those events. We will be working with the event planners to find out what we are going to do to hold those events moving forward. But at this time, everything is on as scheduled.
Hi, Director. I just kind of had a follow-up to that. What went into the decision to not hold the concerts, but to hold those other large events? Like, what is it about the concerts?
So those are ticketed sale events, and many of the performers were already backing out. You've seen that all across the United States this year, where performers just weren't comfortable doing it. So that is what went into our decision making. But thank you for the question.
All right. Thank you, Director. Director Stringer.
Hi, Director. How long is the agency going to pay hazard pay to, I'm not sure what the correct term is, but to the employees to urge them to come to work?
That's a good question. We don't have a date certain at which we'll stop paying. Right now, the policy is that when you work in a facility where there has been a positive test and you keep coming to work, we think you deserve more pay. And so we will keep that up for the foreseeable future until we see, in the end, or if there is an end, what happens with this virus.
All right, thank you, Director. Dr. Williams?
Hey, Dr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
The doctor who I think we both talked to told me that he flagged the spike in cases in Jasper County initially to the county officials on June 8th. So I'm curious, is the state implementing its boxed-in strategy now, and if so, why the delay?
Well, thank you for the question. I think when we last talked, we had a conference call with Arkansas, my counterpart, Nate Smith, and so we had that, I think it was on Tuesday night. They were about 3 weeks ahead of us in their cases. The CDC is on the ground there. We had a call with the CDC on Tuesday as well about possibly helping us out here in Missouri. And so every day we get up and survey the state to see where we might be having outbreaks or hotspots. And we start our days early. We start about 4 o'clock in the morning. So today, based on our conversations with Arkansas, we had conversations yesterday with a Tyson plant in McDonald County, and Paige, the health director there in McDonald County. And so I talked with them today, and they said it was fine to share with you. They're in the process of testing all 1,420 employees. They had done 500 by lunch yesterday when I talked to them. Greatly appreciate what they're doing. I talked with them again this morning. In addition to that, we are going in as we speak with our FQHCs down there and doing testing for anybody in the community. Next week, the National Guard will go into those 4 counties, Jasper and Newton and McDonald and Berry, and be doing community testing for everybody. So yes, we very much are working with our partners, boxing it in there. We have seen an increase in cases in those communities. One thing in our conversations with Arkansas that are different, we're seeing a higher incidence of cases among children. As you look at our dashboard, you'll know we have been very blessed here in Missouri to not have a high caseload for children, but in these communities we are. We've also been in touch with the Mexican consulate. Many of these workers speak Spanish, and the Mexican consulate in Kansas City has been great about offering their resources for messaging, and I spoke to the consulate general yesterday. So we are in a very robust way implementing our boxed-in strategy with our partners, our county health departments, and manufacturing, who I said have been incredibly helpful. Incredibly appreciate the Department of Agriculture's help on this. And as to your earlier question about the date, the timing of it, I think it was basically being dealt with by the locals, and then it came to our attention as cases picked up. I think there was one day of 33 and one day of 37, and so we immediately got involved then.
And really quick, are you doing comprehensive testing at the Butterball plant in Carthage as well, or just the Tyson plant?
Right now, just the Tyson plant, but we're down there looking at all the areas, and again, we're going to be in all 4 counties doing community testing. And working with them. Again, our goal is always to be collaborative. We go in and try to engage in conversations and support our local health departments and in these cases, the meatpacking plant.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Williams. I have a question. Sorry. Hi, Dr. Williams.
Hey, Connor.
I just wanted to ask about, and forgive me if I say this wrong, the dexamethasone. It's a steroid that's widely available.
Yeah.
They say it's cheap. And there's a study in the UK that says that it can treat severe COVID-19 patients. So I just wanted to see if that is being used in Missouri right now, or?
My understanding it is. I got a call today from Springfield, and they have a patient who's there who's we're using remdesivir early. Connor, it brings up a great point, and I can remember, it seems like a long time ago, but I can remember being back, I guess it was March or early April, where the kind of advice was not to use betamethasone, which is often used for ARDS or used for respiratory or other issues, and that was very preliminary. And then, the whole thing about chloroquine, which was then, at least people talked about, but that's been withdrawn now. And so we're back to betamethasone being used for those patients with ARDS, with, as you pointed out in the UK, having success. So I think, as I've mentioned to you before, the only real sin here is not to continuously get up every day open-minded to learning new things, even things that you may have think you visited in the past. Our commitment is to get up every day with an open mind to learn in this evolving novel virus. Thank you.
Sorry, just a follow-up. Just about remdesivir, you brought that up. How is the state doing on its supply of that? Are you still using that regularly?
Yeah, got our latest shipment yesterday, got that shipped out immediately. We've pre-positioned that around the state so that, again, people don't have to wait for some bureaucratic chain where they call and it has to be in. And so, again, was talking to Springfield this morning, and they were greatly appreciative of that. It's been our fundamental policy all along that we think the clinician at the bedside is the best person to decide who to use that on and how to use it. So we have given them latitude purposely, and that comes from practicing for 30 years. I know how much I would have appreciated that, and the feedback we get is that we've become kind of a national model for that, so we're thankful for that. Thank you.
Governor Parson?
Yes.
Hey, I assume you'll go to the fair. What will you do differently this year when you're at the fair and there's crowds all around?
What will I do?
Yeah, what will you do differently to stay safe?
I'm just going to say hello to the folks that are at the fair is what I'm going to do. I'm not sure what roles I'll play in it yet, but I'll be there. Several events there that me and the First Lady both tried to be a part of, and we'll continue to do that tradition. The open ceremonies I know will be there, but hopefully by that time things are much, much better than they are today. And we hope to continue to improve on that. So that's the kind of way we got to focus moving ahead, being optimistic. Just to touch on what Dr. Williams said at the last, we knew there was going to be areas in the state that we're still going to have spikes in the coronavirus. So we knew that when we opened it up. We knew that from the data we had. But I think it's also important to realize we're much more prepared to do that. And I think, again, I have the confidence of the people of this state can handle that. And I think more importantly, you have to always look at the hospitalization. You have to look at all the things that go around with the positive numbers of what's going on. I think you have to look at both those to be able to make decisions, and we do that every day.
Hi, Governor. I just had a follow-up kind of about the fair. I know last week you mentioned that the governor's ham breakfast wouldn't be going on, and the director said no, the only events that are canceled are. So just clarifying, I had a viewer asking. Just wanted to clarify.
Last week when I answered that, I didn't know whether it would be or not. So let me kind of clarify that. But evidently, according to her, we're going to have one. So no, I won't put it on the director at all on that. Look, we talked that over. We was trying to decide what to do. They have a new facility there. We're thinking about ways that we maybe can control the crowd size to that and alternative things. Again, I think when I say the state fair, my role as governor, as the director, we may be going to change things as we move forward about what attendance looks like in some of the areas. Are we going to really let people be bunched up, or are we going to separate them by bleacher rows or whatever that is? But again, I think that's an ongoing issue. But I also think that everybody's going to have to be finding those decisions. And it's not the state fair. I think your high schools, your colleges around the state are going to have to deal with those same problems. How are we going to deal with that? So again, I want to say it's a little bit of work in progress, but again, we got to get started and we got to get things going. So I'm looking forward to the state fair and getting people there.
Hi, Governor. Yesterday there was a rally here in town. Some bus companies were seeking more federal funding for just to stay afloat, basically. At this point, is there any flexibility left in the CARES Act funding we've already received, or has it pretty much been designated to where it's going to go?
Yeah, I just got done talking to the federal delegation just a couple hours ago. One of the things we're really wanting the treasurer to do, the U.S. treasurer, is to maybe loosen up those guidelines a little bit to where the states have a little more say in that, or the local levels. We asked for that specifically today. At first, there was quite a few guidelines coming on, but they've kind of stopped. They've slowed down anyhow, I want to say. But there's money out there for different projects, and if we can relate it to COVID-19, we would like to be able to have the opportunity to use that the best way we see fit to use that funding for us at the state level and for the local levels.
And did they seem open to that right now, or
What's that?
did they seem open to that idea?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Do they seem open to that idea?
Well, you know what? You're talking to the federal delegation. Senator Blunt, I'll mention specifically, said he would go back and try to take care of that problem, along with a lot of the congressmen and congresswomen that were on the phone today. What I learned out of that conversation with them today, we're not the only ones having that same problem. So I think that's a little bit of uniform through other states are having the same problem. And I just like it as governor. I'd like to have the ability to let us really utilize what's left of the COVID funding to be able to let us have the say on how to do it in the state, how to utilize that funding and get it distributed out and make sure we can use it that really is things that are affected with COVID-19.
Thank you.
Any updates on the post-protest talks concerning, possible changes in law or policy?
Yeah, matter of fact, I met with some legislators just before this briefing today a little bit. They wanted to come in and talk about some things, about looking at different things we might be able to do. There was some things that, of course, was on my agenda earlier before in session that I thought would have been really good for the urban areas to do with violent crime. That's something that's still a priority, and I still think it's very important to get that done. So we're going to be moving forward on that. I think one of the things, and we're in the early stages of this, so let me say that as I put this out for the first time. But we're kind of going to take a look at things like the Post Commission here in the state, probably maybe send that around, be around the state, try to do some follow-up to get some information, some public input into that to see what changes we can make to the training and to the Post Commission that's out there. Now, keep in mind, as I tell you that, they don't know that yet, but it's one of the options we have on the table that we might move forward using. So I don't want to blindside them, so I want to make sure you know that I said I haven't talked to them yet, But I think there's different things like that we can do. We're meeting with activists across the state. We've done that a couple times. We're going to meet with them again. We've had a lot of outreach earlier on with some of the clergies in Kansas City and St. Louis. We'll go back, talk to them. I plan on meeting with the Black Caucus in the near future to talk to them and kind of figure out how we're going to move forward. Again, and moving forward where we can be constructive, where we can get some things done that need to be done that we can agree on, and I think there's some things out there that probably could be.
Hi, Governor, again. I was just wondering, the Department of Economic Development revised the unemployment numbers from April from 9.7 to 10.2. I was just wondering why that happened this time.
Yeah, I think just it was a matter of numbers, getting the correct numbers out there. We were a little skeptical of that when we first seen it. We wasn't for sure of that because it's the first time we'd really seen numbers since all this took place. And I think really whether it's 9.7 or 10.1, we're kind of in the same range where we thought we would be. Matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, we thought it could be worse than that when we were looking at projections earlier. I think seeing that number is a good sign for Missouri. Because one, we're under the national level by about 4 points. So kind of moving forward as that number comes down, I think Missouri's numbers will be in the single digits before long if we keep people going back to work. And again, we get the economy going, which we have to do to move those numbers. But, again, we'd love to have that number back down there to, as soon as we could in those low digits, we'd like to hit 6, 5, somewhere in there. By the end of the year. I don't know whether we can do that or not, but that's kind of what my goal is. And I think if we work hard, I think if we keep business open, we get people back to work, I think we got the opportunity to do that.
All right, thank you, Governor.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.